Good morning, all. This is Monica, working as an assistant professor in TKR Engineering College. Today, we'll discuss about CPU scheduling algorithms. CPU scheduling algorithms is also known as the process scheduling algorithms. So, what is process? A program is under execution is called process. For example, I'm doing C program in my operating system, and that program is going to be executed. This process is known as also process. So, for suppose if I am sharing any file to the another system, that is also called as a process. If I'm searching for the anything in the Google Chrome or in anything, that is nothing but also a process. A task or a program is under execution is called a process. But suppose if I have multiple programs or multiple processes I'm doing in my operating system. So how the processes were scheduling, how the first process, if I'm doing C program, that is nothing but a process P1. And I'm sharing the news and I'm sharing the file that is P2. And if I'm searching for another thing that is P3. So P1, P2, P3 are the three processors which I'm working as a simultaneously to the system. So which process is going to be executed first? So for that purpose, CPU scheduling algorithms were implemented. So here, so here process scheduling queues. So in job queue, ready queue, CPU, input output, wait queue. So this is the process scheduling queues diagram. So in this first job queue, when the processes P1, P2, P3, per suppose multiple processes are there, that multiple processes are ready to place in the job queue, which means these processes are going to be executed. In ready queue, if suppose P1 process is entered into the ready queue, that means P1 is going to execute for the CPU. So in job queue, there are next P2, P3 are there. If suppose P1 process is entered into the CPU, then it will be executed. If any waiting requirements are there, per suppose if P1 is program, C program is doing under execution, for that any requirement is there, that P1 process is comes into the input output wait queue. If there is no wait queue, it directly goes to the ready queue and it goes to the CPU and it finally executed. In the same way, next P2 will come to the ready queue and it will go to the execution for CPU. Then after the completion of the execution, CPU, the P2 process will be exit. And the next P3 also, it comes to the ready queue. In this way, multiple processes are placed in the ready queue. Then from ready job queue, the processes which are going to be executed, that processes will come into the ready queue. After coming to the ready queue, if any process wants to any requirements, then it comes to the input output wait queue. If those requirements are gathered by the processes, then it comes to the again ready queue. After gathering the requirements of the process, it go to the CPU for execution. And when CPU process the execution, it comes to the exit state. In this way, processes execution will be done. So which process will going to execute first, which process is going to execute next, these things will be discussed by the CPU scheduling algorithms, nothing but the process scheduling algorithms. In this, we have four scheduling algorithms: FCFS, first come, first serve; SJF, shortest job first; shortest remaining time first; round robin. So here, FCFS, SJF, SRTF, round robin. Before going to discuss these scheduling algorithms, we have two scenarios to discuss: preemptive and non-preemptive scheduling definitions. So under non-preemptive scheduling, once the CPU has been allocated to a process, for suppose I'm allocating the process C program execution to the CPU. That process keeps the CPU until it releases it, either terminating or by switching to the waiting state. It means if the process P1 is going to executing, then only the process P2 will become. If process P1 is completes its execution, then only process P2 entered into the CPU. And by terminating or by switching to the waiting state means, for suppose if P1 wants to any requirements and it goes to the waiting state. That is nothing but the non-preemptive scheduling. Next, preemptive scheduling algorithm. Consider the two processes that are sharing the data. One is updating the data, another one is running. So The second process then tries to read the data which is in the inconsistent state. So this is preemptive scheduling. So here some scheduling criteria are there. So CPU utilization, it means it keeps the CPU as busy as possible. Means P1, P2, P3, both processes are under the execution. So CPU utilization is very high. CPU was very busy to execute these processes P1, P2, P3. Through a throughput, the processes completes their execution per time unit. Each and every process will execute the particular time of interval. So what was the required time to execute the particular process is nothing but the throughput. Next, turnaround time means P1, P2, P3, each and every process, amount of time to execute a particular process. How much time to require to execute each and every process is known as the turnaround time. So waiting time means amount of time the process which has been in the waiting state to get into the ready queue, that is nothing but the waiting time. Response time means amount of time it takes from the request was admitted until the first response is produced. So here these are the scheduling algorithm optimization criteria. So we will find out maximum turnaround time, maximum waiting time, maximum response time in scheduling algorithms. So here first come first serve scheduling. So the name itself representing which process will comes the first, that process will served in the CPU. So here the process P1, P2, P3 are there. So which the burst time means, burst time is nothing but at what time the process entered into the ready queue. So here P1 entered into the ready queue at 24 milliseconds of time. P2 entered into the CPU for 3 milliseconds. P3 entered in 3 milliseconds. So suppose the processes arise in the order of the P1, P2, P3. So overall, we have to find out the overall waiting time, overall average waiting time, overall turnaround time. So here I have found only waiting time and average waiting time. So here the P1 entered into the CPU for the first. So that's why P1 is entered into the ready queue. So this P1, P2, P3 is going diagrammatical representation. This is nothing but the Gantt chart. So in this Gantt chart, we will represent at what time the P1, P2, P3 process entered into the CPU. So we have to find out the overall waiting time. So that's why all processes has to be placed in the Gantt chart. So here P1 at 24 interval of time. So P1 entered into the Gantt chart. So I have placed P1 here. Then next P2. So after P1, P2 arrived at 3 milliseconds. So we have to find out the overall P1, P2, P3 waiting time. So that's why I have added 24 with 3. So P1 completed its execution at 24 milliseconds. And then next to P2, so we have to add the 3 milliseconds to the 24 milliseconds. So 24 plus 3, 27. Then next order P3. So P3 I have placed in the Gantt chart after P2. And after P2, P3 entered. So P2 27 and P3 30. So this is the overall execution process, overall execution time of the three processes, which through first come first serve. So first come first serve scheduling algorithm through, I have placed P1, P2, P3 processes in the Gantt chart. So here this is the average waiting time. So here P1 waiting time is 0, which means starting point of the P1 is 0. The next P2 completes its execution time at 24 milliseconds. And the next P3 completes its execution at 24 milliseconds, 27 milliseconds. So average waiting time means P1, P2, P3 waiting time by 3. So here P1 waiting time 0, P2 waiting time 24, P3 waiting time 27 by 3. So overall average waiting time is 17 milliseconds. So it will take 17 milliseconds time to complete P1, P2, P3 execution by using first come first serve scheduling algorithm. So here we have some advantages and disadvantages also. By using first come first serve, the CPU scheduling algorithm, so which process will enter into the first, that process will be executed obviously. The next, what is the disadvantages means, first suppose here P1 has taken the time to entered into the ready queue, that is 24 milliseconds. After executing of the P1 only, the CPU will take the P2 process. Now P1 is taking too much time to execute. Next P2, P3 will take very less time. So this is nothing but the starvation. So P1 up to the P1 execution process completed, then only P2 process will enter into the ready queue. After executing of the P2 process, then only P3 process will enter into the ready queue. This means the P1 is taking too much time to execute. Then P2, P3 is taking very, very less time. So that's why this is nothing but the starvation. So P1 takes too much time to execute. Next P2, P3 will take very less time. So CPU utilization means very high. CPU is very busy with the P1 process. So this is the starvation. This is the disadvantage in the first come, first serve. Next, go through the next shortest job first scheduling. So in this shortest job first scheduling algorithm, this is the preemptive scheduling algorithm. So shortest remaining time first, shortest job first scheduling. So shortest job first scheduling is the non-preemptive. Shortest remaining time first is the preemptive scheduling algorithm. So here we will discuss about first of all SJF non-preemptive scheduling algorithm, that is shortest job first. Here I have four processes P1, P2, P3, P4 with the burst time 6, 8, 7, 3. So we discussed the burst time means the process entered into the ready queue at 8 milliseconds of time. That is nothing but the burst time. Here P1 is entered into the ready queue at 6 milliseconds. P2 will enter into the CPU ready queue at 8 milliseconds. P3 entered into the ready queue at 7 milliseconds. P4 entered into the ready queue at 3 milliseconds. So here we have four processes to execute simultaneously by using scheduling algorithms. So which process we has to be entered into the CPU for execution? So by using shortest job first scheduling algorithm, it means check the least burst time process. So here I have the burst time with the least of P4. So P4 process will entered into the CPU for execution for first. So shortest job first means which process has the shortest burst time. That burst time process will entered into the CPU for execution. So that's why I have placed P4 process in the Gantt chart of first. So here P4 starts with the 0 and P4 will complete its execution at the 3 milliseconds of time. After P4, 3 milliseconds, check the least burst time. So here 6, 8, 7 in this P1 is the least. So after 3, P1 has to be placed in the burst Gantt chart. So 3 plus 6, 9. Then next we have remaining processes P2 and P3. In that P3 process has the least burst time. So after P4, P1, P3 will be placed. So P2 for P4, the completion time 3. For P1, the completion time 9. Why? Because 3 plus 6. So two processes has to be executed simultaneously. Then next after this, P3 has to be entered into the Gantt chart. Then next 7. So 7 plus 9, 16. So P3 has to be completed its execution time at 16 milliseconds. Then next, the remaining process is only P2. So P2 entered into the ready queue, which means placed in the Gantt chart, and 16 plus 8, 24. In this way, shortest job first scheduling algorithm will be worked. This means the name itself representing which has to be the least burst time. That process has to be placed in the ready queue first. So in the diagrammatical representation Gantt chart, so P4 has to be placed in the first. Then next, least burst time 3, 6, 8, 7. So P4, P1, P3, P2. This is the Gantt chart representation. So average waiting time, P4 completes its process. P1 completes its process at 3 milliseconds. P2 completes its task at 16 milliseconds. P3 completes its task at 9 milliseconds. P4 completes its task at 0 milliseconds. So we have to find out the average waiting time for that addition of the all the completion time of the processes by the number of processes. So here P1, P2, P3, P4, all the processes execution time will be 7 milliseconds. So compared to FCFS, SJF scheduling is very effective. Within a very short time, we will execute our task. Then next, shortest remaining time first, SJF, another type. This is the preemptive scheduling algorithm. SJF is the non-preemptive algorithm. It's shortest job first non-preemptive. And here we will discuss about the shortest remaining time first. So here we have processes P1, P2, P3, P4 at the arrival time of 0, 1, 2, 3 with the burst time 8, 4, 9, 5. So here arrival time means at what time the CPU, at what time the process arrived at the job queue. So that is nothing but arrival time. So రెడీ క్యూలోకి ఎప్పుడైతే ప్రాసెస్ వచ్చిందో దట్ ఈస్ నథింగ్ బట్ ద అరైవల్ టైమ్. హౌ మచ్ టైమ్ it has to be taken for execution, that is nothing but the burst time. So here P1 process arrived at ready queue for 0 milliseconds and it taken 8 milliseconds to complete its execution. And P2 process arrived at 1 millisecond time and it completed its execution with the 4 milliseconds of burst time. In this way, P3, P4 also. So here differences between shortest job first and shortest remaining time first means. So here P1 entered first. So least arrival time is 0. So that means P1 has to be entered, P1 has to be placed in the ready queue first. But it has 8 milliseconds and we have very less burst time for the process P2. But the arrival time is there, that is very less for the P1 process. So by that, shortest remaining time first means V has to be reduced per 1 unit of time for the P1 process. That means that 8 will become the 7. So at 1 millisecond of time, the P1 process has to be arrived, that the burst time we have to be reduced for 1 millisecond of time. That is the shortest remaining time first. So here, that's why in Gantt chart we can see at a 0 arrival time and P1 we have the 1. So why I have to be written 1 here means by the shortest remaining time first, the first 1 unit of time has to be reduced. The next 7 remaining time is 7 for the process P1. Then next, keep in mind that all else for P1 process 7 burst time is there, for P2 4, for P3 9, for P4 5. So now check which process has the least least burst time. So P1 is 7, P2 is 4, P3 is 9, P4 is 5. In that we have to find out the least burst time and that least burst time process will enter into the ready queue for execution. So here P2 process has the least burst time that has to be placed in the Gantt chart. So here already we have reduced the P1 for 1 unit of time, 1 unit interval of time. So 1 plus 4, 5. So P2, 5. So at 5 interval of time, all processes are arrived. So here for 5 unit of time, all processes has arrived. So here P1 with 7 left, P3 with 9, P4 with 5. In this, we have the least burst time of the P4. So here 5 plus P4 burst time 5, total 5 plus 5, 10. Then next, what are the remaining processes are left? P1 and P3. So P1 has left with the 7 milliseconds of burst time and P3 is 9. So P1 is very less compared to P3. So P1 entered into the ready queue that has to be placed in the Gantt chart. So 10 plus 7, 17. And the next remaining process P3 with the burst time 9. So 17 plus 9, 26. In this way, shortest remaining time first scheduling algorithm works. The differences between SJF and shortest remaining time first. In SJF, shortest job first, without the arrival time, if without arrival time is there, so enter the process into the least burst time. So in shortest remaining time first, if arrival time is there, so check with the least arrival time process. So in this P1 is the least arrival time. For the least arrival time process, reduce the burst time for the 1 interval of time. That process entered into the Gantt chart. Then next remaining time with the remaining processes, check the which process has the least shortest burst time and that process is entered into the ready queue. Next, round robin. This is the time quantum. So each process gets a small unit of CPU time. That usually 10 to 100 milliseconds. So after this time has elapsed, the process is preempted and add to the end of the ready queue. If there are n processes in the ready queue, means there are multiple processes in the ready queue, the time quantum is q, which means the time slice. Time interrupts every quantum to schedule the next process. So let us discuss. Here we have discussed about the time quantum of the each and every process. So here we have process P1, P2, P3 with the burst time of 2433. So I am preempted the processes with the 4 interval of time, 4 milliseconds of quantum time. I am moving the processes into the ready queue for execution. So here I have the burst time of the process P1 for 24 milliseconds. But I am entering the process with the into the ready queue with the 4 interval of time. So here P1 entered into the ready queue first with the quantum of the 4 milliseconds. So here we have 24 milliseconds, right? So 4 milliseconds we has to send into the ready queue. Remaining 20 milliseconds are left. So that has to be placed there. And then next, after completion of the P1 with 4 milliseconds, P2 has arrived. P2 has arrived with the 3 milliseconds. So P2 completes its task at the 3 milliseconds of time. That's why P2 entered. So after 4 plus 3, 7. Then next P2 process completely executed. Then next P3 process comes into the ready queue, and that P3 process will executed it's at the 10 milliseconds. 4 plus 3, 7, 7 plus 3, 10. Now, P2 and P3 processes are completely executed. P1 is only left. P1 left with the 20 milliseconds of time. So here we have given the time quantum of the 4 milliseconds. For each 4 milliseconds, P1 is going to ready queue for execution. So P1 for 20 will become the 16, and that 4 quantum will be reduced into the ready queue, and that is the Gantt chart representation of P1 10 plus 4. In this way, 4 milliseconds of reduced until the completion of the 24 will becomes into the 0. So like that, round robin scheduling algorithm will work. So typically higher average turnaround time than SJF, but better response. So SJF though, SJF రౌండ్ రాబిన్ ఈ రెండిట్లో ద వెరీ యావరేజ్ టర్న్ అరౌండ్ టైం ఇచ్చేది రౌండ్ రాబిన్. సో నెక్స్ట్ priority scheduling algorithm. So priority number is associated with the each process. So that is nothing but each and every process has given some priority, which means the process P1 has with the burst time 10 with the priority P3. So very less priority, which means very higher priority to get into the CPU for execution. Here P2 has the highest priority. P2 has 1 least number. So least number will get into the highest priority to enter into the CPU. So here P2 has the highest priority that has to be entered into the ready queue first. So with the one burst time, 1 milliseconds of burst time. Then next check the which process has the least priority, P5. So P2 1, P5 2. So P5 process entered into the ready queue for execution. Here P2 has the burst time of the 5 milliseconds. So 1 plus 5, 6. Next, burst time after 1 to 3 is there. So P3 priority is comes to the P1 process. So P1 process entered into the ready queue for process with the burst time of 10. So add the completion time of the P5 with the P1 burst time. So 6 plus 10, 16. Then next P3 4 priority that goes to the ready queue with the burst time of 2. 16 plus 2, 18. Then next P4 process with the 5 priority, and it has the burst time of 1 unit. So that is 19. So this average waiting time is nothing but 8.2. So in this way, CPU scheduling algorithms will work. So a program is under execution is called process. When we have the multiple processes in our system or in our programs, so each and every process has to be executed. So which process has to be executed first, which process has to be executed next, we will discuss about the scheduling criteria. So in this scheduling algorithms, this processes has to be decided which process entered into the ready queue first. So by using FCFS scheduling algorithm, which process comes the first, that process served, that process executed, that process entered into the ready queue first. Next, SJF, shortest job first, shortest burst time, which process has the shortest burst time, that process entered into the CPU for execution. Next comes to the shortest remaining time first. Whenever the process has the least arrival time, that process has to be reduced by the one interval of time. Then next check the processes with the least burst time, that process entered into the ready queue first. Next round robin, it is nothing but the time quantum. Each and every process has entered into the ready queue with the particular interval of time. At that interval of time only the process has to be entered into the ready queue. Then only the process is complete its execution. Then next priority. Each and every process has their own priority number. The least priority number will gives the highest priority. The least number will gives the highest priority to enter into the CPU. So P1, P1, P2, P3, P4, P5. If suppose P3 is given the priority with 1, that P3 process is entered into the ready queue for execution. Least priority number will gives the highest priority to enter into execution first. So in this way, CPU scheduling algorithms works. Thank you.